So wait a minute. But those prices are negotiated. It's a range of countries. We have an index, so over a variety of countries. Why is it that American consumers, why should people in my home state of Missouri pay 500% more for a drug that subsidizes its cheap cost in Canada? Why should that be the case?
Well, let me talk about that. In other countries, it's not always a negotiation. In fact, many countries they're presented with a price, and the question is, do you want this price, or do you want to not be on the market? And in fact, what's happened in many countries, we've looked specifically at oncology products. Oncology products are actually not available. 96% of all oncology products that are approved anywhere in the world are available in the United States. In Greece, it's 8%. In the UK, it's barely above 70%. So there's a real access issue that happens when price controls are put into place. It's not a negotiation in most circumstances. It's a take it or leave it proposition.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a heated exchange on Capitol Hill as Senator Josh Hawley takes Big Pharma to task over the skyrocketing cost of prescription drugs. If you've ever wondered why Americans are paying some of the highest prices in the world for medication, prescription drug prices in the United States are among the highest globally. Families are forced to choose between paying for life-saving medicine and covering everyday expenses. And Senator Hawley isn't holding back in demanding answers. This is a must-watch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. I'm struck by what we're hearing today. We've heard a lot of concern about policy changes, what those changes might do to innovation, and I just want to drill down on that because I wonder if we're asking the wrong question. It seems to me that it's good to have a policy that promotes innovation, and that's certainly what much of our patent policy has been aimed at in the United States. But the real question is, who's going to pay for that innovation? And that, to me, seems to be the key question. And the problem now is the people who are paying for that innovation are those who are the sickest. It's those who go virtually bankrupt because they can't choose when they get sick, and they get stuck with footing the bill for the innovation for not just the rest of us, but for the rest of the world. And so let me just ask the panel this question. Would anybody on this panel, if you were designing a system to promote innovation and you were doing so from scratch, would any of you design a system like we have now that places the cost of innovation on the sickest of folks who cannot afford or choose when they get sick? Any takers?
No.
Let me ask you about the cost that Americans bear for providing cheap drugs to other countries. And I just want to get on the record what some of the people in my state of Missouri, for instance, are paying. Take a commonly prescribed blood thinner. In my home state, in Versailles, Missouri, the cost of that medication is 500% more expensive, 500% more expensive than it is in Versailles, France. Or, for instance, a common nerve and muscle treatment in Sedalia, Missouri costs 200% more than the exact same drug in Sedalia, Canada. Let's just talk about that for a minute, why this is happening, the basic economic model. Mr. Stansel, let me ask you, when we as a country issue patents, we're effectively agreeing to pay a monopoly price, to pay for monopoly profits in exchange for greater amounts of innovation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, although there would be potentially competition on the market already, or competition that comes after that's in the same therapeutic class. So it's not an ability like in any other industry to set your prices at whatever you want. It's a market-based decision.
Well, tell me this: the majority of patent medications are developed here in the United States. But would you agree that those benefits are shared across the globe, including and maybe especially in developed countries like Canada and Europe?
That's right. There's a lot of freeloading, free riding that goes on across the world. The U.S. Department of Commerce in 2004 actually did a study that said that if countries essentially were paying what they should for pharmaceutical products, that there would be enough research and development money available to bring dozens of new products to market every year.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because, in fact, a recent report from the Brookings Institute estimates that Americans pay 78% of the monopoly profits for these drugs, but other consumers in Europe and in Canada benefit from it by paying 200 and 300 and 400 and 500% less than American consumers are paying. Don't you agree that that's a problem? We should do something about that?
I think we should, and I think we have existing trade agreements that we can use to prevent some of the practices that are going on in these other countries.
Well, if the trade agreements are existing, why haven't they prevented this pattern that's been going on for years now?
because the authority actually needs to be used. For example, we've encouraged that the U.S. Trade Representative appoint a special ambassador, essentially, that would address drug pricing abroad and address situations where compulsory licensing and other things are being used. What happens a lot of times in other countries is that they actually have a much smaller generic market than we do. They don't have 90% uptake in the generic market. They're actually using branded products a lot more than we do. And that's in part because they take the IP and they give it to some of their generic manufacturers. It's a process that results in fewer products worldwide, and it actually should be addressed.
Well, what about this? Senator Scott and I have a bill that would prevent pharma companies from charging American consumers more than they charge consumers for the exact same drugs in Europe and Canada. What about that?
I think that adopting essentially the price controls that are being used in other countries is not the best way to address this issue. I think competition is the better way to address this.
Well, so wait a minute. But those prices are negotiated. It's a range of countries. We have an index, so over a variety of countries. Why is it that American consumers, why should people in my home state of Missouri pay 500% more for a drug that subsidizes its cheap cost in Canada? Why should that be the case?
Well, let me talk about that. In other countries, it's not always a negotiation. In fact, many countries, they're presented with a price, and the question is, do you want this price or do you want to not be on the market? And in fact, what's happened in many countries, we've looked specifically at oncology products. Oncology products are actually not available. 96% of all oncology products that are approved anywhere in the world are available in the United States. In Greece, it's 8%. In the UK, it's barely above 70%. So there's a real access issue that happens when price controls are put into place. It's not a negotiation in most circumstances. It's a take it or leave it proposition.
Mr. Mitchell, you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I could have picked Germany, where 96% of the cancer drugs are available. There's
Right.
tremendous overlap. He just picked, countries that are not, that compare poorly. The problem isn't that those other countries are paying so much less. I don't want a cystic fibrosis kid in Britain to pay more for her drugs so I can pay less for mine. We are paying too much, and it's because we don't negotiate. We don't use tools like you have in your bill with Senator Scott to ensure that Americans are getting a fair shake. And it's by negotiating with them.
Right. Well said. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At the end of the day, you're profiting off of the backs of sick Americans. That is wrong, and it has to change. The push for reform is gaining momentum. Whether it's capping prices, increasing transparency, or allowing Medicare to negotiate costs, the pressure on Big Pharma is building. So here's the question for you. Do you think Congress should step in to regulate the cost of prescription drugs, or should the market decide? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns of major hearings, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.